Breaking news! Reports reaching us that the masked figure in the Nancy Guthrie case might be a woman, and this is something many aren't talking about, which we will be looking into today. Stay tuned.
An 84-year-old woman, gone, taken from her own home in the middle of the night, in her pajamas, without her shoes, without her medicine. And the only thing standing between us and the truth is one masked figure on a doorbell camera. Everybody looked at that footage and said, "That's a man." But I looked at it, and I kept asking myself one question. Are we sure? Because the more I analyzed the details of this case, the physical evidence, the behavior, the planning, the motive, the more I realized that everything we think we know about this suspect may be built on one very dangerous assumption. So today, I'm going to break this down, piece by piece. And by the end of this video, I want you to tell me what you think. Let me set the scene first, so we're all on the same page. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She is the mother of a
Savannah
very
Guthrie.
well-known TV personality, and she lives alone in a quiet, upscale neighborhood on the outskirts of Tucson, Arizona. On the evening of January 31st, 2026, she had dinner and a card game with family. She was driven home,
A
dropped
SWAT
off,
operation
and that was
is
the last
unfolding
confirmed
in
sighting of her
Tucson,
alive.
Arizona. These are
The
live
next morning,
pictures into our
February 1st,
newsroom.
she didn't show up for a virtual church service with a friend. Family went to check on her, and she was gone. What they found at her house painted a deeply disturbing picture. Her blood was on the front porch. Her back doors were propped open. Her doorbell camera had been deliberately disconnected at exactly 1:47 in the morning. Her personal belongings were left behind, and she was taken in her sleep clothes with none of her daily medication. Medication she needs every 24 hours to survive. This was not someone who walked away. This was a woman who was taken, against her will, in the dark. And the person who took her, or at least the person seen casing her front door that morning, was captured on that doorbell camera before they disconnected it. That footage was the biggest break in the case, and it is the centerpiece of everything I'm about to say. When the FBI finally released that doorbell camera footage, 10 days after Nancy went missing, the world got its first look at the suspect. And here is what we can actually see. A figure dressed entirely in dark clothing, a ski mask covering the face completely, gloves on both hands, a holstered firearm on the front of the body, a fully packed backpack, and eyes, just the eyes, visible through the holes in the mask. This person approached the front door, attempted to block the camera with their gloved hand, and then used a branch from the nearby shrubbery to cover the lens. Now, based on forensic analysis of the doorbell camera angle and the fixed points on the porch, the FBI concluded that this individual is approximately 5 feet 9 inches to 5 feet 10 inches tall, with an average build. And they described this person as male. But here is where I want to slow everything down. Because that label, male, is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this investigation. And I don't think it has been questioned nearly enough. So let's question it, carefully, analytically, point by point. Reason number 1, the height. 5'9" to 5'10". That is the official measurement. Now, most people hear that and immediately think, well, that's too tall to be a woman. But that assumption is incorrect. The average height for an American woman is around 5'4". But average does not mean maximum. Tall women exist. Women who are 5'9", 5'10". They are not outliers. They walk among us every day. They play sports professionally. They model. They work regular jobs. And yes, statistically speaking, they are fully capable of committing crimes. The height range given by the FBI does not confirm a male suspect. It simply confirms a tall person. And that is a very different thing. What makes this even more interesting is that the FBI derived that height from camera angle forensics, a method that, while reliable, carries a margin of error. A bulky backpack, thick-soled boots, or even the angle at which someone leans forward can affect how height reads on a fixed doorbell camera. The height alone is not proof of gender, full stop. Reason number 2, the build. The FBI described the suspect as having an average build. Think about what that means. Not muscular, not stocky, not large. Average. Now put that person in head-to-toe dark clothing, a ski mask, a thick jacket, long pants, gloves, and a fully loaded backpack strapped to their back. What do you see? You see a shape, a silhouette. You do not see shoulders, hips, a chest, or any of the anatomical markers we typically use, consciously or unconsciously, to read someone's gender. A woman of average build, dressed exactly the way this suspect was dressed, on a grainy black and white night vision doorbell camera, would look exactly like what we see in that footage. The outfit was deliberate. Every item this person wore was chosen to prevent identification. The mask hides the face. The gloves prevent fingerprints and hide hand size. The jacket conceals body shape. The backpack adds bulk to the back and torso. This was not someone who dressed for comfort. This was someone who dressed for invisibility. And a woman who understood that would dress exactly this way. Reason number 3, and this is the one I find most compelling. The way this person moves. Multiple law enforcement experts who reviewed the footage made the same observation. This individual is calm, unhurried, methodical. They approach the door like they've been there before. There is no frantic energy. No nervous looking around, just slow, deliberate, purposeful movement. One expert described it as someone who almost saunters up like that's his house. Another noted there was a complete lack of concern about being caught, a sense of control, of confidence, of ownership over the situation. Now here is what I need you to understand about that behavioral profile. That is not a uniquely male trait. In fact, research into female offenders in planned, premeditated crimes consistently shows that women tend to be calmer and more composed during the commission of a crime than their male counterparts. Women who plan crimes plan thoroughly. They are less likely to panic. They are more likely to move methodically. And here's the other thing. Think about what this crime required physically. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She cannot walk 50 yards without assistance. The sheriff himself said that. This is a woman who is physically very limited. Subduing her would not require the strength of a large man. It would not require brute force at all. A woman of average size could have managed this entirely on her own. The behavior we see on that camera, calm, planned, controlled, fits a female perpetrator just as well as a male one, maybe even better. Reason number 4, the level of planning. This crime was not random. Let me say that again. This was not a random crime. Think about everything this person did correctly. They came at 1:47 in the morning, the deepest part of the night. They knew there was a doorbell camera, and they knew how to disable it. They covered it first with their hand, then with shrubbery from the garden, suggesting they had scoped the property in advance and knew what tools were available to them. They brought a flashlight, held in their mouth to keep their hands free, which means they thought through the logistics of operating in the dark. They wore gloves. They brought a packed bag, and they left no obvious trace of forced entry. This level of detail-oriented planning is the hallmark of someone with a personal connection to the target or the location. And this is where the female theory becomes even more plausible. Crimes motivated by revenge, specifically crimes where the goal is to cause deep emotional pain to someone connected to the victim, show a notable pattern of female involvement, not always as the person on the ground, but as the architect, as the organizer, as the one who knows the layout of the house, the schedule of the victim, and the weaknesses in the security system. Who in Nancy Guthrie's world would know that she watched virtual church services on Sunday mornings? Who would know that she was being dropped off late on a Saturday night? Who would know that a doorbell camera existed and where it was positioned? Someone close, someone familiar, possibly a woman. Now let's talk about motive, because this is where everything gets darker. One of the most credible theories circulating among experts right now is that this crime was not really about Nancy Guthrie at all. Think about it. Why would someone target an 84-year-old woman who lives alone? She is not independently wealthy in an obvious way. She is not a public figure. She does not have enemies of her own that we know of. But she is someone's mother. And that someone is one of the most recognized faces on American morning television. The theory goes like this. Someone wanted to cause maximum pain to a person in Nancy's orbit. And the most devastating way to hurt that person, more devastating than any direct attack, is to take the one thing they cannot replace, their mother. If that theory is correct, if this crime was personal, emotional, retaliatory, then the profile shifts significantly. Crimes rooted in emotional retribution, in personal grievance, in I want you to feel what I felt. Those crimes are committed by women at a far higher rate than stranger-based violent crimes. This suspect brought a firearm. That is true. And yes, firearms are more commonly associated with male offenders statistically. But women carry firearms too. Women use firearms in crimes too. A holster on the front of the body, rather than the hip, could suggest someone who isn't used to carrying, or someone who wore it for intimidation, rather than intent to use it. That detail alone is worth noting. The motive, the emotional logic, the personal knowledge required, all of it points towards someone with a deeply personal connection to this case. And that someone does not have to be a man. Now I want to be completely honest with you, as I always am. The FBI looked at this footage and called this person male. I respect that. They have access to far more evidence than what has been released publicly. There may be things they know that we do not. And I am not here to tell you the suspect is definitely a woman. I am not accusing any individual. I am not pointing fingers. What I am doing, what I think we are all obligated to do when a case goes cold, is ask the questions that challenge our assumptions. Because assumptions are where investigations go to die. If everyone on the investigative team, and everyone watching at home, starts from the premise that this is a man, then they stop looking for a woman. And if this suspect happens to be a woman, or if a woman was involved in any way, that blind spot could be the reason Nancy Guthrie is never found. Over 72 days have passed. There are no arrests, no confirmed suspects, no confirmed motive. The case has stalled. Sometimes the answer to a stalled investigation is a question nobody thought to ask. If you've made it this far, thank you. Genuinely, this is the kind of deep, analytical, true crime content I will always bring to this channel. No fluff, no gossip, just evidence, logic, and the questions that matter. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the suspect on that camera could be a woman? Do you think there were multiple people involved? Drop your theory in the comments right now. I read every single one. And if you want more content like this, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Nancy Guthrie is still missing. If you have any information at all, please call 1-800-CALL-FBI. Stay curious, stay analytical, and let's keep looking for Nancy.